Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Benon Fred Grammar School. I'm used to formal things where I go in class and tough enough. This is a casual event where we have to socialize with the author. And as we wait for a couple of other people to come, we couldn't continue with taking tea, but to start socializing as the event should be. Being that we are a small number, socialization even becomes better because it becomes easy to go person to person, point to point. And I will take only the opportunity to introduce the people in the front, and then the people at the audience will have to introduce themselves, tell us where you work, what you do, and then we get to know each other for future references. Maybe when I write my textbook, I can also come here and call you. I'm not sure when that could be. So amidst us, we have protocol-wise, we have Mr. John Kimose, Principal Police Analyst, and OPM Private Secretary, that is from Prime Minister's office. The Prime Minister was meant to be the chief guest, but got a little bit of work to do, national duties of these days. So he's representing the Prime Minister. On his left is Mr. Sari Joseph, also from OPM's office. That is Office of the Prime Minister, for those who are from across the ocean, outside the countries, as we call it here in Uganda. And then next is Mr. Dr. Tuliamuleva, and they told me I should make sure that he's the one in charge of General Counsel for Dallas, Texas, and the U.S. South.
General Counsel of Uganda to the U.S. in the Southwest region, which is based in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah, they said I shouldn't forget Dallas, Texas. That's why I'm careful, so that it comes from the high table. You don't think I'm making it up. And last but not least, or to make it more stylish, is our. I called her Mukole, and she said no. But our main, you can say the main guest, although the chief guest is the chief guest, then our main guest is, he said I leave all the other names which are long, so I will only mention Mazzi WAMPAMBA, and who is the author of the book, The Reason We Are Here. And, thank you very much. I now guess we know each other. I now know that the book I'm carrying, the designer is amidst us. I know now that the author has got a lot of friends, and that's what makes it a nice thing to introduce each other to one another. I'm not supposed to do any speeches because I'm simply part-time MC for today. But I met Margaret via email. I didn't know how she looked like. I saw her email somewhere for something and said, "What are you doing?" She said we could meet. So when she came to Uganda, we met. And when we met, we agreed that we could get somebody to come and give a talk. And as you see, Professor Nick Spencer said for 2 days is at Makerere. And he met us in the department at Makerere. And I thought I would mention it to show you how meeting now here can lead to something different in the future. Just because you came for a book launch, you may make a networking opportunity that can lead you to something better. And he will be giving a talk tomorrow in case you are invested. You can pass by Makerere in the Sedat Conference Hall and see what he works on, maybe how he got to connect with Margaret. I apologize, I did not say Princess. Apologies for not honoring that. So we kind of have noticed that tight schedule. There is tea at the back, those who had not captured or gotten a cup of tea or a stick of fruits. We should make it as casual as possible so that it's not like a textbook where we have to review and criticize. I like the last part, which I shouldn't mention much of it, a collection of poems in prose of life's emotions. I'm more intrigued by the word emotions, but we won't be having too many emotions here. On another note, if you haven't had a copy, we got copies at the other desk. Each one is 20,000, 20,000 only. That's about how many dollars? Less than $10. Less than $10. It's just a change. It's just change for some people, which you can drop down. Okay, now that we know each other and the signs show that others may come later, we need to do a couple of intros and get some speeches, and they can find us socializing. We can repeat it if it is possible. But Princess, do you have something to say? I introduced you, you did not introduce yourself. Do you have something you want to say before you say the actual thing?
I would like to follow the African culture, where the gentlemen take precedence of the ladies. So since we have members of parliament here, and people who are Prime Minister, maybe they should start. And then this will sugar it up.
No, I think the author wants to be a true Mugole. I didn't want, this wasn't the official bit of you saying about the book.
Oh.
But you know, I introduced you. I did not allow you to introduce yourselves because you were on the high table. But still, I said a few things like I forgot Princess. So if you say something from yourself, in addition to the introduction I did, not that you are talking about it, that one you have your own time. If in the way I introduced you, you think there's something that I could have done, yes, like I was struggling with general council and Dallas. You could have said it better because this is a time of network. So if you just want to add something to your introduction, just a small thing, and then you have to tell us about your book, business lady.
Okay. So I shouldn't thank anybody for coming yet. I should do it afterwards.
Thanking you can even thank people 1,000 times, depending on how thankful you are.
Yeah, they all know that I'm very thankful. Since you've just sort of talked me into saying something about myself, I'll just say something about myself, yes? And then I'll do the thanking afterwards. My name is Mazzi WAMPAMBA. You all know me. I live in the United States. I grew up in England. I went to school in France. I have lived in so many countries, I can't remember how many. I speak 7 languages. Actually, I do. That is Luganda, Nyankole, Rutoro, and Uganda sometimes, Michiga. Yeah, I lose 5.
Yes.
Then English, French. But anyhow, I work for the United States government, and I'm not here officially, so we can't talk much about that part of my life. I'm on a personal visit to this country. He told me not to talk about the book, so I don't know what to say because I want to go now to meander into the book and how I started writing and all that, and he doesn't want me to talk about that yet. I don't think. Okay. Can I allow the gentleman on the table also to say something?
Yes. I introduced them in a rush, but like the General Counsel, I was fidgeting. You can tell us more about it.
My name is David Mureva, and I live in Dallas, Texas. I'm actually not the General Counsel. I'm the Honorary Counsel General for Uganda in the southwestern states, and that is Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, and New Mexico. I'm also an engineer by profession, and I used to be a teacher at George Washington University. I'm a private businessman. I own and run an information technology company which has done some work in Uganda, and recently I went into renewable energy, and that's partly why I'm here. But I'm also the chairman of the East African Diaspora Business Council, and that is mainly why I'm here. We are planning a trade mission in April. We are trying to bring traders and investors from California, Texas, Minnesota, and New York to Uganda. So I had a meeting with Uganda Investment Authority today to find out what projects are prime that I can take back for those people to look at. That's basically it in summary, and that beautiful lady over there is my lovely wife. We travel together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. MC. You have done a good job providing a precise introduction, but I'll just add one or two details. Innocent Frederick Ejolo. I work in the Office of the Prime Minister as one of the private secretaries. My job is basically in policy analysis, so I do policy advisory work. It's very unusual for civil servants to represent our political leadership, but today is a very unique day in many respects. We celebrate your work, for instance, but there's also a very big state meeting taking place at State House, so that brings us here to bring the Prime Minister's message. So I basically do policy analysis work, but outside of that, I also part-time teach. I teach postgraduate courses at Uganda Management Institute and Uganda Christian University, just to keep me, fresh. So it's also good to be here and also appreciate the contribution you're making to education as it were. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My name, as you said, I'm Sally Joseph. I'm a private secretary to the Prime Minister. I'm a lawyer, and I do some lecture in law, some of the universities, as part-time, but in my full-time is the Prime Minister's office. We are grateful, Madam, and we appreciate your work.
Thank you very much. I'm wondering, are there public secretaries? I'm here in private secretaries. Are there public secretaries? I'm just wondering, because I've never heard of a public secretary, a minister or here.
They are.
Do they allow you to teach as you work as a public secretary? Anyway, I get back to our book business. That was just, since I'm an MC, I have to make sure that I get some information. But I'm grateful that now we know exactly each one of you, instead of me just fumbling with the words around. Now, we had an activity to take tea. I guess we shall take it as well another round when we are done with the introduction. For now, I would like to, I have forgotten the protocol, but I will require who to call first. Even you can vote whom you want to listen to first. Listen to the author first, and then the chief guest next. But amidst us, we have art pieces, which we shall hand over later, but they are going to be looked at. There are ones which are already unveiled, and there is one which they say has to be sacred. We left it packaged, so I'm not sure what it is. Another one, they made it face the other side so that we don't see it. But the one facing us is good enough to give a message. So, you can see a couple of one young kid, another one taking solace with mom. I don't see a dad. Nevertheless, we need now to, I can now invite because the chief guest cannot say anything before the author tells us what the book is. What motivated her? I saw some 7 hills somewhere. And they 8 now? There's another one which got added on. So I will invite the author to tell us about the book. If anyone who has not bought can now buy after we have known the motivation. And when she has told us about the book, we shall invite the chief guest. I'm just giving a rough agenda which can be adopted or adapted or adjusted. And then after the chief guest has, if there is anybody after the author who has a reaction or a testament to give, like the niece said she's motivated and she will write a book about estate management soon, then she can give a testimony after she has given her, preamble and motivation of the book. So without taking much of our time, if I can be inclusive, I'm going to invite Princess, because now I can't say Madam, she's beyond Madam. Princess to come and give us, to tell us the genesis of this book, and then we shall give, I'm going to talk like one in the meeting, give reactions or give our sentiments. After that, then the guest will give his speech, open or launch the book. I'm used to opening things. And then after that, we can socialize and exchange contacts and then see ourselves back home. The floor is yours.
There's one thing you forgot to mention. Our chief guest will be doing some presentations. Yes. I'm so delighted that you could all come. There are not a lot of us here, but you know how it is in these parts of the world. But I'm so grateful that we can make this time and meet here together. As you've been told, my name is Margaret Ann WAMPAMBA. Margaret was gotten from Princess Margaret of England. Anne was gotten from Princess Anne of England. Mazzi was brought in from one of my aunties, my father's sister, who was Mazzi, and WAMPAMBA is my father's name. We come from the royal family of Buganda. We are delighted to be part of the Ugandan culture. Our family is related to every tribe in Uganda, except for a few. So, Mr. Mureba, don't sit there and think you're not my relative. Your Excellency, don't think that you're not my relative. You are all related to me. And we have people in the hills in Kenya who are also our relatives. They all live around Mount Kenya. They are Gikuyus. Some live in a place called Kiambu. They are Gikuyus. And some live in the hills of Meru. They are Merus. And there are a little bit of Akambas also in our family. So we are a diverse family. I am simple, I am uncomplicated, and I'm hardly sophisticated. And I've got lots of love for you. And my love is unsolicited. and yet it is complete. I started writing when I was very young. That was before high school or senior school here in the British system. And then when I went to England, I continued to write because I studied English in literature. And so writing was my passion. But real serious writing came to me when I went to the United States, and I couldn't find any books for my son that were telling my son, or my son could read about Africa, for example. So I started writing simply short stories about Africa so that I could read some stories to my son before he went to bed. I published those books. They didn't become famous because I didn't have time to market them, but they're there in Amazon and Barnes and Noble and everywhere. And so I said to myself, should I write a novel as a starter? But then an idea came to me. I said, why don't you write a biography of yourself? Actually, that was an idea given to me by one of the professors at New York University who had lived in Africa and Uganda for a very long time and went back to teach at the University of New York, and said, why don't you write about yourself? You come from a family with a lot of history and and you know about all the literature and so on. Why don't you write about that? I said, okay, fine. I started to write, but it wasn't good enough for me because it was taking up a lot of time. So then an idea came to me. I said, why don't I write poems of each event in my life and try to relate it to myself, but then at the same time it can relate to other people. So my early years were around the Great Lakes of East Africa. I was exposed to East Africa as a young person, and I was then taken away from East Africa by circumstances of East Africa. I left East Africa because there was a man called Amin who came to power, and my father thought I should be rushed to England. That's how I ended up in England. And I went to school in England. I had to adapt the English culture because I was young enough to admire anything you threw up to me. That's how I started to write about the beauty of the English culture, the English meadows, the walks, about Cheltenham ladies, and everything about, I just fell in love with England, so I wrote about England. Then from England, I went to France to study the French language and culture. And there again, I fell in love deeply with the French culture and the French language. And I started writing a little bit. It's very difficult to write in French if you're not really French. It is a very difficult language, but then it is very romantic also. So I wrote about that. And then I went back to England and started working, and I didn't write a lot. But the collection of this book, when you read it from beginning to end, it's really about somebody's life and the experiences in life that we all you can take any of these poems and adapt it to your own life, actually, because they all fit in our lives. The emotions we go through, the hurts we go through, the loves we acquire as we go along in our lives, and the achievements and successes that we all write. So I thought I should write about this, about all that. In the United States, there is a poem in here that I write about some stuff about America, the hurts of America. When you read a poem that I wrote about a black man, and then there's another poem about the black woman. Those two poems are directly written about African Americans, the struggles of an African American man and the hardships of an African American woman. So when you read that, you can relate to that. I read about the city, the Seven Hills, because I was taken away from the Seven Hills very, very early in life. I didn't experience the mischiefs of a young teenager running away from home at around 8 o'clock when the parents go to sleep and you go to the nightclubs. I never experienced that in Kampala. I wasn't here. So, but I wrote about the Seven Hills. Like an ocean, deep, wide, endless, beautiful. You never know how deeply you penetrated my soul, a lovely feeling, only to be kept here at my heart. Always will love you in my own way, deeply, sweetly, discreetly. You'll never be there when I yearn for your touch. Only the ocean will know the extent of my love. Like the waves, it is graceful, yet strong. The palm trees will always remind me of the whispers. The ocean will always listen to my secret love screams. For my love for you is like an ocean, deep, wide, endless, beautiful, yet secret. Why is it secret? In some people's lives, they are not allowed to express their love for anything, for the people they are with, for the food they eat, for the countries they live in. So they secretly love their countries without being in their countries. They secretly love this person without being able to touch that person. And like an ocean, like the waters of East Africa that are settled in Mombasa, we love our lives in our different ways. Without telling our neighbors, because sometimes we can't. For this nation that I loved so much, I wrote a poem that said, I think it is in here, it says The Long Journey. When you read that poem, it's about any person who grew up in Africa, in countries that had problems, wars, uncertainty of the people. And yet they look back and they say, our ancestors were great men and women. They ruled the world with no interference. It was said to them, to you all, because you were not here, you were young. The men were ruthless, but strong for their nation. They were adored and loved, for they showed what it took to be a nation, not divided. Because they were not divided, they all lived together happily. But our ancestors left a nation so divided, they left the people powerless, powerless to govern, powerless to unite, powerless to nourish, powerless to love. This journey has been long, a long journey, a journey of the unknown, a journey not guided, a journey of human errors, with no power to govern, with no power to unite, with no power to nourish, with no desire to love that nation. The new tenants came at night, and you all know that every country in Africa where people came to take over, they never came during the day. They always came at night, forcing some to leave for foreign lands, so they would rule that nation with prejudice, anger, anarchy, with no respect for our history. I travel in this world alone with envy. Should I have stayed? Could I have survived? Could I have learned to govern? Could I have dared to unite? Could I have saved my nation? This journey has been bitter, sometimes sweet, yet I continue on this journey, still on this road, an endless road, a road that awakens, a road that promises, a road traveled by many, a road that mixes joy, happiness, hate, in a bowl of confusion. A long journey indeed. This is a story that has been told by most of my African brothers and sisters who have fled their nations and lived in different countries. So There are so many things in here. I wrote about the Blue Nile, which is in Ethiopia. The Blue Nile. I once went to Ethiopia to do work, but when you go to any country, all of you can relate to this story. You go to a country, it is beautiful, you want to go out and see things, but you are busy working, you are there for only 1 week, and you work from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock, you cannot go out to see anything. Wrapped in my work, breakfast was brief, dinner was confusing, work was calling all the time. Opportunity did not knock. Conversations were brief, work was calling all the time. Evenings were rare, contact was forbidden. Work was calling all the time. Away from you, Ethiopia, the sky opened up to me that you were there all the time. Still wrapped in my work, nights are sleepless, thoughts are long, wishes are many, wishing for the Blue Nile all the time. So we all wished we had gone to see the source of the Nile. We wished that we had gone to see Western Uganda, where I was yesterday. I had never ever been to Mbarara. I've never seen a place so beautiful. And yet I was born here. We always wish. So that poem was touching everybody. Even though I wrote it about Ethiopia, it touches anybody in the country. Me black? Why call me black? Are you colorblind? Why call me black? Does it help your being? Why call me black? Is it a cultural thing? Why call me black? Is it a common thing? The sun, so bright on Africa. The moonlight, so radiant all night. Why call me black? You forgot my name, my tribe, my continent? Why call me black? I wrote that poem because when I was I touched, nobody ever called me black when I lived in England. Nobody. And I lived there almost all my life as, I was young guy. I stepped in the United States and I was supposed to fill in this form. And the form asks you whether you are white, Asian, all sorts of things, and black, of course. And then there's a thing saying other. So I always checked other. So at immigration, they asked me, why am I putting in other? And I said, well, none of these things apply to me. The guy said, but you are black. I said, I'm not black, I'm African. I didn't know the difference between, I didn't know what black meant. So why call me black? That's why I wrote that. That's why I wrote that poem. So this book has history about me. It has history about everybody. It has history about the general audience of the world. The black man. By this name, he has power and purpose. From Africa, he brings the strength of our drums, the wisdom of great kings. He is the foundation of our history. He's the father of our children. He's a black man, naturally proud, yet forever strong. In most countries, most people don't know this, black men have a lot of struggle trying to identify themselves with society. They have to be encouraged by their friends, their female friends, and everybody. So they need this to be repeated, that them being black, they are the source of our history. They are the orders of our. And then the black woman is stout, confident, strong, yet beautiful. The mother of a nation, with and without support, is always loving. You all know of all sorts of single women who never get support from their husbands or their boyfriends or whoever, and then they have kids. But they still bring up those kids. They are the keeper of the child, hers and not hers, for she knows where she has been. Hold of the secret that love is for all, master or staff, she endures. Wisdom, all hers, for she strives on wisdom, to lead her folk, with or without support, always loving. Black woman, stout, confident, strong, yet determined, for without that, she would lead no folk, her nation, black woman proud. And then I wrote a poem about all our friends that sacrifice their time, they sacrifice their comfort in their own countries, and they come to Africa to help educate our African children. And that poem, I wrote that poem when I was sitting somewhere in a place called Marrakesh. If I can find it, it's a nice poem. This will relate to most of the expatriates. It's called Beautiful One. Under the African sun, under the African moon, surrounded by sand dunes, Arabian spices, veiled women, you abandoned your gown to embrace an African dream. You fell in love with the king's camels. You bragged about the palm wine. You rested your arm on this African prospect with a promise that you will never let him down, ever, as long as you lived. Under the blue skies of that great continent, you never tired to educate, to inform, to scream with love. Along the Indian Ocean, you excelled among the palm trees. On beaten paths, you persisted to find where that first European landed to colonize. At the Cape of Good Hope, you bowed to the African gods with a promise to never, ever let apartheid hinder education of the African child. At the top of the Table Mountain, you yelled peace. I wrote that poem about all the people that come to Africa to educate our children. They give up a lot. Thank you so much. This is my passion. It is a passion for me to write. I love writing, and I hope I can continue to write. And I hope more people will write. And for a country like Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, those are the three countries I grew up as a citizen of. I was a citizen of Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania when I was born. Because we were all British subjects until we got our independence. And then we became Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania. Otherwise we were this thing, I don't know what they used to call it. Thank you. I have to pay tribute to the country Kenya because I spent 3 years in Kenya. And it could be a shame because I know more about Kenya than I know about Uganda. But that is because when I left Uganda, it was a mean, and I never came back to live here as a grown-up. But then I went to Kenya and worked there for the Canadian government, supporting scientific research. And I learned a lot about the Kenyan culture. And I have a lot of poems I wrote about Kenya, which are not published in here. There are about 3 of them in here about Kenya. It is one of those countries that I really feel very grateful for. They helped a lot of our people, and I wrote about that. Ugandans fled to Kenya and they were respected and welcomed and taken care of. Sometimes it brings tears to my eyes. So Mr. Chebe, it's not a surprise that you are one of my best friends. And you happen to be a Gikuyu. Those were my other family I thank you so much. I thank you, Professor Spencer, for being English. The English nation brought me up. And I thank everybody here, all the Ugandans that have been. Uganda is a very beautiful country. It's got a lot of culture. And we have so many talented people. And we need to really explore that talent. I don't think I should read anymore. I think Your Excellencies, you probably want to start on the program because you probably be called back to State House before the program is over. Yes. Thank you.
Now I know the where the emotions come from. I was wondering where of life's emotions. Now I'm also becoming emotional. Well, we talked when we met the first time, and even the email. She emailed me, gave me a call, we shared, and we went in the same line. And she makes it more appropriate to find that Spencer is here, but when we were meeting him, almost half of our members were not there. He spent his transport to come. He's looking at how he can help us, but we can't look at how we can help ourselves. So when she becomes emotional on how people give a lot to come and educate us, come and help us, and the story we went through to look for what she wanted to get in terms of getting people who should benefit from a given support is a long story which I cannot record here. And just like your niece said, you are an inspiration. Other people went to they go to the United States, eat cheeseburger and come here, and we call them Abasama. But they are only people who can experience summer and winter, and then you see them in the papers giving money. They get money and throw like this. But being that now you put something together and say what you feel about your continent and your country, I think it is a good deal for most of us and the challenge. And I said that when she gives a speech, in case you have something to say, I've already said mine, because I have the advantage of being an MC and on the floor. If you have something to say before I call on the Excellency to come and give the representative speech of the OPM, you can. But if you are still emotional like me, you are still nursing your emotions, I would like to take this opportunity to invite Mr. come and give us the other side of how the government sees it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, MC. Shall we give a round of applause to Princess Mazzi WAMPAMBA? Thank you very much. Princess Mazzi WAMPAMBA, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Happy New Year to you all. I hope that the year started very well for you. I'm here to deliver a very quick but focused message from the Right Honorable Prime Minister as we celebrate this great achievement of Princess Mazzi WAMPAMBA. Just a second. I have some notes with me so that I make direct reference to them. PM sends you warm greetings. He would have very much wanted to be here as we, launch this great book, Like an Ocean, Poems in Prose by Mazzi WAMPAMBA, but he couldn't really make it. Even by midday today, he was hopeful that he would be here, but that could not be possible because of the meeting that is taking place at State House in Entebbe. But he was very, very thankful for the invitation that he received from you. He had had a series of interactions with you, Princess, about this event and was really looking forward to attending it with his dear wife, but that has not been possible. But nevertheless, he sends you congratulations. This is a very great, a very, very, very great achievement. He regrets his absence from here, but this is a very, very, very great achievement. Now, the book that we launched today is clearly a celebration of the great works of literature by African writers. You don't find many Africans writing, but when they do, they write great, pieces of work. I could list the great men and women, African men and women who have written very interesting pieces of work, or called maybe 10. Wathiongo, Wole Soyinka, Chinua Achebe. Princess Mazzi, you're one of these. It's very nice to have an occasion when we launch a great piece of work like this one. Of course, it should inspire our young people. It will be very helpful. It tells a story about life. There are many emotions you're writing about here. You know, love, hate, heart, happiness. You also tell a historical story. What we've experienced in this part of the world, of course, in the global context, and all those changes we've gone through. Reading through the poems, when you gave the introductory, your remarks here, you gave us a very good snapshot of yourself. You're simple, you're uncomplicated, hardly sophisticated, with love from you, unsolicited, yet complete. What is striking here is that the style you've adopted in writing this book is very interesting, very simple, but very pregnant. When you read, you relate with these poems at very many and very different, levels. Today, in your life, yesterday, and even in your dreams, you relate with these poems. So it's very good to see that you're true to yourself as you do this writing. Walking us through some of the poems, I read through these poems. I was very interested in the poem Me Black. Very interesting poem. And when you read it and also read about Azania, and you relate the two poems, I just love the idealism. When we talk about race, these are very sensitive subjects sometimes, but you're being very ideal about this. And I see the love in the message that is coming out of that as well. It's very interesting when you, in your fourth stanza, Azania, black, white, colored, Indian, Asian, you are all a sweet sound. This is a very powerful message, and it speaks volumes, and this is a great piece of work. We must congratulate our daughter, Princess Mazzi WAMPAMBA, for what is indeed a very, very good piece of work. You said you had done work which is on the Amazons and things like this. So bringing the launch home, like you're doing today, is something we must salute. And in that respect, PM is very thankful to the efforts that you put in this, the support you've received from your friends, from family, from the hotel. And it's very good to see the general manager here. We thank you very much. This is one and a very good return you can give us. We are sure Serena is doing great business. This is because of the very positive environment, climate government is creating. And when you return through this corporate social responsibility, you must be saluted. So it's very, very good to have you here as well today. We thank you for that. The Prime Minister is delighted to launch this book, and for that reason, I'll go straight away to announce that with a rousing hand clap from you, like an ocean, poems in prose is hereby launched. If there are some specific things you'll be doing, we can do that, but the book is very much launched, and we invite the public to buy the book, read the poems. It's a life story. It's a historical story, and you can relate to it. So I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We're now almost getting to that point when we have to go for the second course. We said we started from third course, now we are going to the second one, later we shall go to the first course. I don't know how that works. But before I talk of the courses, we have some art pieces, and my before that. I'm a part-time MC, so I have to consult the full-time. So she's going to tell us about those art pieces. She says it is a very long story. And I return the long story to the one who can narrate it precisely in poems.
Well, before we go there, I would like to recognize Mr. Patrick Kabonero, who is actually with us. You were late when you were introducing everybody, so please would you introduce yourself? Mr. Kabonero was one of the great friends of my father. He was his banker, and I think he misses him a lot. Well, they did, so I needed to recognize him. Now, going to the art, I would like to recognize wholeheartedly, with love and affection, my best friend, David Lumu Chiboka. He's the gentleman that did the book cover, and he's going to continue to do all my book covers. He didn't know that until just now. And Mr. Chibuka has been so kind to offer his hand to do the art that we are about to present to our general manager, to recognize the kindness, you know, Mr. Chege, you don't know this. I mean, some of us who have lived in Kenya, we don't know how we can thank that country for having helped us in everything. Now, Mr. Chibuka gave us this job, this piece, which if you were going to go and buy it, you would be frightened of the numbers, the zeros that would go behind that number, whatever. In US dollars, by the way, not in shillings. There were a number of zeros. But I'm going to ask yes, the Excellency over here to do the honors for the Prime Minister to present that piece, which Mr. Chibuka can tell you about after you present it, the story of it and what inspired you to do that piece. And actually, me, when I look at it, I remember Mombasa, Kenya, with so much love. Mombasa, Kenya is one of the most romantic places in the world. Yeah. It used to be, at least. This piece, His Excellency is going to present it to you on behalf of us, on behalf of himself and the Prime Minister and us and the General Counsel from Texas, to Serena and the Aga Khan family for being so kind to us. So, Your Excellency.
Shall we do it from?
You can do it.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Bring all of them.
This is the one that you are doing now. Then we will do the next.
We have had that fantastic story about this piece, not to mention the price, but it's clearly a very nice piece of art that Serena Hotel will be very happy to have. On behalf of Princess Mazzi WAMPAMBA and her group, and on behalf of the Right Honourable Prime Minister, we're very delighted to hand this in appreciation to Mr. Chege, the General Manager, Serena Hotel. Please.
Thank you. There.
Just a second, please. Look over here. No, that's okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. We'll take it over.
Yeah, we can. Now,
That's
before you say that, no, don't go.
Yes,
Think of this as the Obama house. There are always so many things that come from this house. Again, I have to be very thankful to Mr. David Lumu for, he's such a generous guy. So he's now got another piece that was the other. Another piece with I don't know, 7 zeros behind it. And this one, I am personally presenting this my very good friend, Mr. Chege, again, for being so kind, not only to me as a person, but Mr. Chege actually, since we are all educators, this gentleman has helped us every time we have meetings here from the United States. He helps us and gives us fantastic rates to bring the Americans here to do their meetings, and you know, in his fantastic hotel. Yeah. So we cannot pay him because we are government of the United States. We can't pay him. So this is personal from us to you, Mr. Chege, for your house, not for Serena. So would you?
Yeah, sure. Again, you receive this.
Wow, good.
I think it was covered because this was in the book cover. So
Yes. Thank you so much.
Those are Ugandan dancers. Yeah.
The East African.
There is
What we say nowadays,
Yes.
when they ask you what your nationality is,
Yes.
you say we are East African, then you go over Ugandan origin
Oh,
or a Kenyan origin.
Oh, I see.
That's how we do.
That is
That's
great.
why we travel nowadays with our ID
Okay.
across the borders.
Yes, yes.
Yes, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Now, how do you find this?
We can receive it and deliver it to you. But alternatively, since he's looking for an opportunity to meet you as well, it would be nice to maybe come along. Yeah, sure.
So now,